Hi, you've clicked onto today's tropical tidbit for Friday, October 2nd, 2015. The thoughts expressed in this video are mine alone, and in making decisions, please always consult the National Hurricane Center and National Weather Service. While Hurricane Joaquin continues to lash the Bahamas, some of these islands have probably seen about 24 hours straight of hurricane conditions. Unbelievable situation down there. The eye currently over San Salvador Island, still cloud-filled, but this has been a Category 4 hurricane for the majority of the last day, and this morning, slight weakening today, possibly due to some upwelling or cooling of the water beneath the storm because it's been sitting in the same spot for so long, and also possibly because there have been some structural defects with the lack of spiral bands to the north of the eye wall here, and this leaves the northern eye wall at least partially exposed to a drier environment to the north, and this has prevented it from maintaining a nice closed and symmetric structure, and there was a partial eye wall replacement cycle that may have occurred during last night as well, which has caused the eye to grow today. All in all, not perfect structure for Joaquin, but certainly strong enough. A catastrophic Category 4 during most of the time it spent in the Bahamas here, and this will likely go down as one of the worst hurricane events in this part of the Bahamas in many decades. Just a disaster down there, unfortunately, from this storm. If we go ahead and look at the water vapor imagery, we can see that the good news is that Joaquin is beginning to drift toward the northeast now, away from the Bahamas, finally getting out of there, and that's in response to two troughs, the first one digging in over the southeastern United States, the second one nearing Bermuda here, and the combination of the western flow on the southern side of this trough and the westward flow on the south side of this trough will start bringing Joaquin more toward the northeast here with time as it moves up into this weakness in the ridge. And we can see what would have happened with Joaquin if it had been up in this area instead. If it was faster, then it could have hit the United States, but that is no longer the case. It has stayed down here too long. But we can see what's going on the eastern side of this trough. A lot of convective activity blowing up as the eastern side of this trough forces ascent, and this tropical moisture begins to push ashore. There's a warm front here pushing out from the east into the coast, and this will cause the well-advertised flooding event that is not associated with Hurricane Joaquin and would be occurring even if the hurricane had never formed. But this is not the area where the hurricane is moving into. This would be what would have been the worst case scenario for the United States has now turned into the worst case scenario, sadly, for the Bahamas, where the hurricane misses the trough, but as a consequence sits and stalls for more than a day in this area, and unfortunately has likely done a lot of damage in this region, but is finally beginning to move away, and within 6 to 12 hours should largely have cleared out of the islands and will begin to move northeast with quickening pace as time goes on, as this upper low continues to come toward the west and help bring this up behind it. And the only land area left that could be affected by Joaquin potentially is the island of Bermuda. This is the current NHC forecast track showing the northeastward movement, and outside the forecast cone here is Bermuda, but there is a tropical storm watch, as Joaquin will be somewhat large and continuing to grow in size as it recurves and could impact Bermuda with some tropical storm conditions, and some variations in the track are still possible. But this will be moving rather fast, and by late Sunday should already be moving past Bermuda into Monday. But again, the warm front moving into the southeast coast is going to bring a very, very heavy rainfall event as this upper low stalls and brings this moisture onshore and piles up here in this region of the country. And the WPC rainfall forecast continues to show a massive non-hurricane related flooding event getting set up to occur this weekend, especially over South Carolina and parts of Georgia, North Carolina, and Virginia. This could be a disaster in its own right for the United States without Joaquin, but could be a historic problem, historic flooding event for this area of the country. So please make sure you're prepared and pay attention to your local National Weather Service forecast office for their statements and information about this event. Other than that, we'll continue to monitor Joaquin closely, thankfully beginning to move away from the Bahamas. Now no threat to the United States, may get rather close to Bermuda in a couple of days, but hopefully the worst impacts to land from this hurricane will be over by tomorrow morning. Alright, that's it for today. Thanks for watching.